Back again with another YouTube video. It's your boy Uriah G. Today we're gonna react to how WWE rewrote the rise of Triple H. We're gonna react to how WWE rewrote the rise of Triple H. I'm gonna make sure I put the link in the description of my description of the link. So yeah, let's get right into the video.
In 2025, Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, also known as Paul Levesque, is seen as one of the company's most influential figures these days booking, but some 25 or so years ago, as a wrestler, a champion, all of that good stuff. The thing is, though, when did Triple H really become a star? Because unlike, say, Austin and The Rock and The Undertaker, where we all know their key moments and journey, it feels like with Triple H, that isn't necessarily the case.
No, it feels like they've been added in later on. Like, it didn't happen in 96. It didn't happen in 97 after he won the King of the Ring.
Yeah, he didn't get pushed until later on in his career. I can admit that. Let's continue.
Not in 98 either, and not in 99. It happened a little after that. We're going to get more into, though, his 1999, which was one of the strangest years ever, only because so many things happened for Triple H, but also so many changes in his character happened where he was on the card. Even in the factions he was in 1999 changed up so often.
That is very true, and in a way, it almost feels like WWE has rewrote the story on Triple H's rise to stardom, and that is what we are talking about here today on Special Guest Referee.
Triple H's rise to stardom. Let's go.
I hope you're ready to play the game.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Yo, here comes trouble.
This is like my favorite Triple H theme song. Before we even start for real, I think this is Triple H's 16th theme. I could be wrong. This one is definitely better than his original, and it's better than the Kings of Kings. Y'all comment down what's your favorite Triple H theme song.
I am the game, JR.
I said, are you ready?
Triple H, I've read your resume, and it is pretty impressive.
I am the game. We're gonna prove to the world.
What?
His assessment of Triple H is pretty much colorful.
I was so confused. I thought it was a montage video, compilation video, but I want to hear these guys and their what is this channel called? Special Guest Ref. I want to hear their input.
Personalities, Jim Cornette. His assessment of Triple H is pretty much our assessment of Triple H. That would be, he was never really a star. He was just the guy that got to work with all of the stars. Yeah, because Triple H got to work and have lengthy feuds with Stone Cold Steve Austin various times, The Rock for what seems like 4 years, Undertaker, and none of them got him over. That would be until he feuded with Mankind, Mick Foley, in 2000.
Yeah, he beat Mankind plenty of times. That, I think it was like a Falls Count Anywhere match or Royal Rumble. It was some type of match where like Mick Foley, I think, had went through thumbtacks. No. With like on his back. No, I think that was Triple H. But it was, I don't even think it was Mick Foley's gimmick. I think it was Cactus Jack versus Triple H. But yeah, something like that.
Not the one in 1997, the feud in 2000. But just a reminder that, yeah, obviously he did feud with him in 97, and it got Triple H over from being more of like that snobby aristocrat-y gimmick to more of his real-life gimmick. But the 2000 feud finally set him up as the final boss in a video game that he would play for the next decade plus.
With fans gravitating to Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, two figures who were tweeners, I guess you could say, but really they were becoming full-fledged baby faces. Heels in WWF or WWE today were really hard to come by as the calendar turned to 1999, because let's not forget, they really tried to make the Big Show a thing, and we all know how that went. With DX not necessarily...
See, with Big Show, they made him World Heavyweight Champion. I think, didn't they make him WWF Champion? I could be wrong. I don't really know. I know he was World Heavyweight Champion. Kane was WWF Champion for like one day. He lost it to Stone Cold the next day on Raw after Kane beat him. It was like a first blood match. Kane had a mask on, and Stone Cold didn't have a mask on. What you expect? Of course he's gonna bleed first.
Doing much of note around late 98 and 99. I mean, unless you were super into interfactional feuds, it was kind of a chance to try something new with some of the members of the group. I mean, let's be real. The mid-card talent around this time, also in WWE, not seen as particularly credible threats. This is when we get that Road Dogg Intercontinental Championship one I'm sure we all are fond of talking about. In some ways, Triple H could be seen as a wrestler who could potentially fill a void at the top of the card.
Yeah, we don't talk much about Triple H in 99 enough because he's featured prominently and there is really little to no direction. His role is almost that of a stopgap situation. When he turned heel and went with the corporation, he was not a top guy. He was maybe third or fourth at best from the top. Vince was the main guy. Then you had The Rock. Then he had The Undertaker when he joined in after The Rock left. So, yeah, it was almost like Triple H was just kind of never able to get up to the top spot. He was always kind of in the middle there.
He was a lackey. I mean, he was a high-end lackey. He was, I guess, slightly above Boss Man, but not by a whole lot.
No, I was even going to say he might be at the level of Boss Man, but yeah, he definitely took less losses than Boss Man, so that's good. Triple H's, though, first main event is in May of 99, but it was at the UK No Mercy, so really, do we even count that?
It's not canon. It doesn't count.
Yeah. There was also a minor feud with Taker versus Triple H, but it never really went anywhere. They kind of feuded for like a week, maybe 2 weeks over who was going to main event a pay-per-view. But really, again, it was given to Taker and then Taker would become the champion. So yeah, he was kind of bumped down another level.
So that brings us to summer 1999 at WrestleMania 15. Actually, let me ask you a question, Tim. Do you remember who Triple H faced at WrestleMania 15 and why they were even feuding?
I remember he turned heel at WrestleMania, but I do not remember who he actually faced.
He was fighting with Kane because we were in the midst of a month-long Is Kane and DX saga that never went anywhere. But I think this does give you an idea of where exactly Triple H was on the card as we enter summer 1999.
Summer 99 was insane. So it started with Taker as the champion, then Austin became the champion, and then leading up to SummerSlam, you really had no idea who was going to face Austin at SummerSlam. You kind of thought it was going to be Mankind, but then it became Triple H, and then it became China, and then it somehow became Mankind versus Austin versus Triple H for the title. Not sure how we got there.
Oh my God. So fully loaded, you get the number one contendership, Rock and Triple H.
Should they bring back the fully loaded pay-per-view?
Have a match. It's a fine match. It's a strap match. DX sort of helps, but me and Tim have made a effort to not get sidetracked by D-Generation X because there's a lot we want to talk about there. So we're not going to get too sidetracked into that, but Triple H wins. He's number one contender for the championship at SummerSlam until he isn't, and that happens like the following Raw. China gets involved as she beats Triple H, which of course you always want your number one contender losing to. I mean, China, obviously a star around this time, but you're also trying to build Triple H to be a credible threat, maybe not having him lose to China. Well, there were shenanigans involved for sure, but
This was the Attitude Era.
wasn't a great loss on his resume. And then Mankind beats China. And it's classic 1999 WWE where we're just swerving everywhere all the time for no reason in particular. But we do finally get to a SummerSlam main event, and that is Triple H gets back. I'm not going to waste your time going over it, but Triple H is involved. So is Mankind. And then you have the champion who is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
So we have the triple threat match at SummerSlam and Mankind wins the belt. Very weird that he wins it, but he wins it and everyone liked it. But then the next night on Raw, Triple H ends up winning the belt from him. So it basically makes the whole pay-per-view null and void.
Yeah, there's a reason for it.
Well, title changed the next day or next week.
For all of this, you see Jesse the Body Ventura, the newly elected. I wasn't newly elected by this time. He'd been on the job for I guess 9 months by this point, but he was the special guest referee, not our channel, of course, but he was a special guest referee in the match, or the main event for SummerSlam. Now, he wanted a photo op, but you couldn't really have him in a photo op with Triple H raising the hand of this heel champion. You could have in theory done it with Stone Cold Steve Austin, but even then, I don't know if that was the optics of what Jesse the Body Ventura was going for. And the belt was going to be moved on anyway a night later. So I'm not exactly sure what the logic here was, except for the fact Jesse the Body Ventura wanted a photo op lifting the hand of a babyface. And that picture, by the way, super weird looking. I don't know if it did any favors for Ventura politically speaking. It's just, it's 99 though. Like, it's a weird time.
So if you thought that was weird, well, it got even weirder after Triple H would win the belt, because then he started to feud with Vince McMahon of all people, which really didn't make a lot of sense because they were kind of in a faction together for a few months. And then Austin.
Did y'all just see that, man? Big Boss Man destroying Ken Shamrock.
Because they
with,
were kind of in.
What is that? It looks like a weapon that a policeman uses. I don't want to say the weapon. It's like some type of stick. But I don't know what it's called. Yeah, I know what it's called, but I'm not finna sit here and even try to even say. Ken Shamrock definitely underrated. There goes the Ministry of Darkness in the ring.
A faction together for a few months, and then Austin got rid of Vince for a few months, and then Vince came back. So now Vince and Austin, we're now on the same side for some reason, because Triple H is the only heel we have left right now. So we have to make everything go up against Triple H. That's basically what happened here, was that they put everything in one basket to go up against Triple H. That's really the only main reason why Triple H was in all these big feuds, is because they put everything on his plate. So after they had Triple H win the belt, then they had Vince beat him for the belt, which was also incredibly weird.
Dang. I wasn't even around, so I don't really know too much about that. Vince beating Triple H.
I mean, it's fun if you want to watch it now because the crowd goes absolutely insane. But I mean, Vince is covered in blood, wearing a suit. It looks really weird as his wife, who is now in the cabinet of the United States, is now holding up his hand. Just some of the weirdest things you'll ever see 25 years later. But anyway, so Vince ends up putting the belt up for grabs in the six-pack challenge, which, of course, then Triple H ends up winning. So Triple H is again the champion. So he wins, loses, and wins the belt.
A lot of title changes
Within about a month. That's why this whole time was absolutely insane, and I think everybody forgets it.
Talk about making your future star look strong. You know, and I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? Everything in 99 did not make Triple H look particularly strong or even all of that smart. He's going around talking about the game. That's his entrance music and all of that. But you never got the feeling he was the guy manipulating everything around this time. He was the guy who liked to talk about manipulating. And boy, oh boy, did Triple H start liking to talk around this time, because we get introduced to the 20-minute opening promo. I'm not sure when the first one of these happens. There's one after he wins the belt in September on a Raw where he comes out and talks a lot about his resume, and he's interrupted by Billy Gunn of all people, and they end up having a main event match. It's absolutely preposterous. So the question remains, though, how does Triple H go from fighting Kane at WrestleMania to essentially being the only heel standing towards the later stages of 1999? Well, Steve Austin is hurt a few different times around this period. He does hurt his neck later on in that late autumn, winter time, so he's off TV. Undertaker's injured. He's not going to be on TV for a while, and when you do see him, he's the American Badass, so that's happening. And The Rock is a curious case here because he's almost like on a gap year to become a babyface. They're doing the whole Rock and Sock connection, and that takes off like gangbusters. I don't think anyone was ready for just how popular and how everyone loved the Rock and Sock connection, because they're together and then they kind of break up and then they're back together for most of the end of 99. And it's really I think, and I don't know how you feel about this, Tim, but I always felt this was
Why does Triple H look so mad in that picture?
how
Hold
they
on.
wanted to make The Rock that top babyface character where even before this in 99, people loved The Rock.
He don't look mad. He just looks serious. Not the picture right here. It's about to come up anytime soon.
He's getting huge pops, but they really wanted to sort of guide him over a little bit to a little soften some of his edges, as they like to say in Hollywood. And that is successful to a certain extent, even though it is kind of weird that The Rock and Mankind would become this odd couple.
Yeah, kind of a weird team that got really over. I mean, they were hugely over, and they were only a team for, like you said, maybe 3 months at most in autumn. And then, yeah, The Rock kind of does his own thing and goes into the.
And also, nice background that they have. They got some Bruno Sammartino, I guess his merchandise that he wore to the ring, the little robe jacket, and then he got the steel chair, I guess it's autograph signed, and then you got some posters in the background he got over there, like wrestling. They probably cost some money. I don't know, but what am I talking about? Let's just continue the video. What am I talking about?
World title picture, which is where he belongs. But yeah, The Rock did kind of do a very weird 99 where he also started the year as a heel in the corporation and then ended the year as this big time babyface who was kind of on his own. So just a very weird year for him as well. And I think the whole thing that with him in the tag team anyway was just WWE trying to, yeah, like you said, get The Rock more well-rounded, even though I don't really think he needed to be more well-rounded at this point. He was so over. He was the number one face by far on the entire show. He just didn't have a number one heel.
That is true. And again, we talk about Triple H's Weird 99, but The Rock goes from St. Valentine's Day Massacre and just like beating the brains out of Mankind to being his bestie. Anyway, more or less, as we get to the end of 1999 and Y2K and all of that stuff, the only thing WWE has at the main event scene is Triple H and Vince McMahon. It's sort of they're the last two standing, and it's not that they're stars. Vince McMahon's a star for sure around this time, but Triple H isn't really getting these huge reactions, and that is where it feels like WWE has rewrote that backstory, because they'll have you believe he was this huge star, and you go back and you watch Triple H. I mean, firstly, if you're a heel against...
Now that I think about it, I do understand his statement and what he's saying, you know what I mean? Because Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H, whatever you want to call it, he was the king of the ring, you know what I mean? And he was a mid-card wrestler at that time, if you want to say, I guess, IC champion.
The babyface Vince McMahon, that's probably not a great sign. Like, they had to make Vince a babyface because Triple H wouldn't have worked there.
Yeah, and the way that they made Vince a face was like, you watch it now and you're like, how did they do that? But they somehow did it. Like within about a month, they just kind of kept Vince off TV for 2 months. And then when they brought him back, they were like, here you go. He's a face now. And we're like, oh, okay, I guess this is what it is. Because when he left after that first blood match in July, he was a heel. Yes, Vince was a heel. And then when he comes back in September to win the world title, he is somehow a face. Very strange, but they managed to do it because they basically used Austin as that cudgel to get him into being a face. But yeah, again, Triple H versus Vince, very weird that they're going up against each other, and very weird that Triple H is the heel in that whole scenario.
Vince as a...
Yeah, because you would always expect the opposite.
Babyface in 99.
At least between them two.
Was... I think for a lot of fans at the time, no one really knew how to respond to that. I sure as hell don't know how to deal with that in 2025. But how did they try to make this Vince McMahon face turn work?
Well, basically, they did it because they entered in Stephanie. And this is where we get to talk about Stephanie McMahon, who was kind of a part of the show starting in April of 99, where they brought her in a very insane way, where they had her get kidnapped by Undertaker and then put up on that symbol, and she was going to get married, and then Austin saves the day. But anyway, so Stephanie's now a part of the show for most of the fall and like kind of summer of 99, and she's going out with Test, and they basically milked that storyline for a couple of pay-per-views as well before they actually are going to get married. And this is probably one of the few times where a wrestling wedding actually worked, and WWE has been trying to find that same thing for the last...
The only WWE wedding I got to see on TV was probably the... What was it called? It was Daniel... Was it the Daniel Bryan one? Daniel Bryan and... Not AJ Lee. No, it was Dolph Ziggler, AJ Lee. It was someone who got married in WWE recently, like in the actual ring. Why is there food popping up on the screen? I'm trying to find some wrestling marriages. I've seen the Rusev one. I don't know. I've seen something. The Daniel Bryan and AJ Lee one? Yeah, I've seen that. I haven't seen all the other ones. But that doesn't matter. We need to react to this video. Wow. That's school stuff. School stuff.
Last, 25 years. They haven't been able to do a good wedding like they did Stephanie and Test. So obviously Triple H comes out, says he drugs her and marries her, and now they're married, and that's basically how they got him to be the biggest heel ever, was because he drugs and kidnaps Stephanie and marries her. So almost the same way Undertaker was trying to get her, Triple H ended up doing it, and then that's how that whole thing becomes a match at December's pay-per-view, which is Vince versus Triple H, because you have Stephanie in the middle there.
The problem with this is that a lot of that WWE male demographic in 99 probably thought it was cool what Triple H did, and I don't think it worked as the heel turn they thought it was going to work. I think a lot of his reactions are more mixed at this time, because again, you have Vince McMahon, this evil boss, and it was really hard to have anyone feel sympathetic for him. And then Triple H is doing some of those it's a little like almost Kevin Nashy, where it's very sarcastic. He's getting more back into that DX Triple H character. We could talk about this for some time, and we don't want to spend a lot of time talking about that because it's probably worthy of its own discussion. But everything builds up to that.
And then, like, you remember when this is off topic, but you remember the Daniel Bryan and AJ Lee marriage thing, and then like Akeem or someone interfered. He was walking to the ring. He was like the announcer for the marriage, or he was announcing them, and then I don't know how it got interrupted or destroyed. It was something. It was like Raw 1000.
Main event at WrestleMania 2000, and then, well, after feuding for who knows, an illegal wedding, a bunch of stuff with druggings and whatnot, what happens then, Tim?
Well, then Triple H joins the McMahon-Helmsley faction, and we have Vince teaming with Triple H and teaming with Stephanie and Shane, and they become this giant conglomerated faction where they have a bunch of people where basically DX joins them kind of for a little bit, and then they kind of just gain whoever they want after that. And they're basically running the show for all of 2000. And it's basically been rewritten that Triple H is now the most dastardly, horrible heel because, again, there is nobody else. Triple H is the top heel at this point because after WrestleMania 2000, what do you have as the main event? Rock versus Triple H, Rock versus Triple H, Rock versus Triple H. And then I believe at King of the Ring, you have a 6-man tag, and that's where Undertaker and Kane get involved in with The Rock. versus Triple H. But otherwise, it's always Rock versus Triple H because there's nobody else. Austin's not around at this point.
Yeah, Austin's not around, and Jericho isn't quite there yet. Benoit's still not there yet. Kurt Angle's still not there yet. And you'll see as we get to 2001 and 2002, I actually think this is when Triple H's character starts to become more defined and we kind of get a better idea of what he's about. Because if you compare like 99, 2000 to 2001, 2002, Triple H has a lot of different feuds. He's fighting all kinds of different guys, and it's far more interesting and more of an organic growth there than we get in 99, 2000. Yet this is the era of Triple H from which all of the stories about his character, about the game, about manipulating people are built from. And it's all false.
Yeah, there's no backing. There's no real information as to why Triple H just becomes the final boss in a video game. He just becomes it because there's nobody else and he's the only one left. And this is where Triple H's character really becomes elevated here in most of 2000, where he becomes the game, the guy that we all have to get through to become the champion, and the guy who basically is putting all the chess pieces on the board and moving them all around. That's really where his character really evolves in 2000, 2001. But yeah, this 99 character, he was basically like a pawn. He was not the king or the queen in the chessboard. He was the pawn being moved to different places and then somehow becomes the champion in 3 months after that.
Yeah, I mean, the game 99 Triple H, WrestleMania 15, we talked about that Kane.
I can say majority of his career he was a heel, but then again he was a face too for a good amount of his career. He was a mixture of both at times.
Triple H match, but the show stealer there, Pete Rose in a San Diego chicken costume. That is what that match is remembered for. And in a month later or what have you, he's in the triple threat main event at the No Mercy UK show, and he is only there to eat a pin. They just wanted to send the crowd home happy in the UK, as they were fond of doing. A lot of those shows don't really have a huge connection to what's happening at that time, so they were able to protect Undertaker. They have Austin.
All right, we reacted to most of this video, but that was how WWE rewrote the rise of Triple H. Tell me what you guys want to see next in the comments down below. I got more videos coming. Stay tuned. Subscribe, like, comment. And yeah, Uriah out.